All right, we're live. Hopefully, I didn't make a crazy face. Like I was trying so hard to avoid making a crazy face for the thumbnail, but it is what it is. Hello, everybody. We're back. This is Shift the Journey. I'm your host. My name is Tito Amogus. This is really just a passion of mine to interview people every week to talk about their journey. Everybody's got a different story. Everybody's got a different career path, and not all career paths are straight. Let me tell you about a winding road. But today's guest, special guest, yay! Today's guest is Dave Staton. I don't think I'll be able to call you Dave. I'm going to try my best, but I don't know if I can. Dave is a retired Air Force Chief Master Sergeant, and I actually served under Dave here at Keesler Air Force Base in Mississippi some years back. I retired in 2015. He was still there. And then he retired 2 years later. So here we are. All right. So, one of the things I like to do is if the conversation permits, we'll just like kind of go with the flow. But usually I ask somebody, what's about like where they're from and what they started out doing. And then like something you're passionate about, something cool, interesting you're involved in. And we could just start with, I know that you can't take like 29 plus years of Air Force service and go, hey, let's put that into an hour and then still have some things to talk about. So just tell everybody like where you're from originally and what made you want to join the Air Force. We'll start there.
All right, great. Yeah, that's an easy one. Well, first, Tito, so great to see you again, man. And thanks for inviting me on. And, I love doing these things, and especially when they're folks that I care about that are trying to do stuff for other people. So I appreciate you asking me to do this. Man, I'm originally from Birmingham, Alabama, and we moved to Arkansas when I was 12. So we claim Arkansas is kind of home, but huge Alabama Roll Tide fan my whole life, can never change, always going to be the same. So yeah, that kind of explains a lot to the people that know me. I can't be a Hog fan. I've tried like heck, but doesn't work. Roll Tide all the way. So, hey, I was a senior in high school. What led me to the Air Force? I really didn't have any inkling of joining the military, and if I did, it was probably going to be the Navy. Kind of following, I had my favorite uncle served in the Navy. My dad served in the Army. My grandfather did as well. But I never really thought about the Air Force. Long story short, senior year, thought college was paid for. Dad had told us maybe when I was younger that it was, or something crazy was in my mind. And, I really wasn't a great student in high school, kind of was there to have fun. Anyways, I had moved out when I was 16. I was living kind of on my own with my best friend and his single mom. And anyways, I stopped by my dad's house, asked him about college, like, where should I go to school? He's like, I don't care where you go to college. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, you're paying for it, right? And he started kind of belly laughing. Said, you see that Ford Escort out in the driveway, son? There's no money for college, dude. That was all gone in the divorce. And that, that kind of scenario, a lot of people can relate to a story like that. So the next day at school, I was kind of down and telling my friends, like, man, I don't know what the heck I'm going to do. And one of my buddies, his name's David Young. He's retired Air Force Senior Master Sergeant. He started telling me about this delayed enlistment plan he was on with the Air Force. And he was going to be this cop in the Air Force and then get out and be a state trooper and all this big, long story. They were going to pay for his college. And I was like, what are you talking about, man? And so I got fired up. And as soon as school got out that day, I drove as fast as I could to the mall, walked into this recruiter's office as tech sergeant. I really had to get back to another town to get to work. I was flipping steaks at the Sizz, and I had to get there. So I said, hey, man, I want a hat and a T-shirt. Where do I sign? I was only 17 at that time, so he couldn't really do it. So he came. I had to meet my dad. My dad signed. I signed up, and as they say, man, the rest is history. I didn't know anything about the Air Force. I didn't even know what a TI, and for those that don't know what a TI is, a drill sergeant in the Air Force. When I was getting off the bus and for basic training, I was like, yeah. Everybody's talking about the TIs. I'm like, what is that? And they're like, dude, the drill sergeant. I'm like, we have drill sergeants in the Air Force?
Oh my gosh. That's great.
So funny that, I spent of my almost 30-year career, over 11 and a half of that as a TI, 3 different tours, and from senior airman to chief, basically.
Oh my gosh.
I made senior as a first sergeant, but all my staff, tech, master, and chief, I made all as a TI.
What what squadron were you in?
Oh man. So I went through basic training in the 3701st. I TI'd in the 01st when it was the 21st, TI'd in the 23rd, 31st. I taught MTI school. I was on Stanival.
Oh man.
And I was a superintendent of the training support squadron that runs the Beast, and now the 319th does. I was the superintendent of that as well.
Yeah.
I pretty much was almost all over the place in BMT. That was a lot of years, a lot.
Wow.
So
you went through like a lot of changes there. What years were you there?
So I joined the Air Force in '88, in just right after Desert Storm, like late 90, I think it was 91, maybe. I put in a package to be a TI as a senior airman and asked for exception to policy. I was an admin troop. I knew what an ETP was. So I put in and said, hey, please let me compete. They didn't allow airmen at the time.
Mm-hmm.
To my surprise, they allowed me. And I was literally at that time the only E4 senior airman. There were buck sergeants, but I was the only airman TI. And there had been senior airmen before. There'd even been some A1Cs back in the day. It's a lot of Air Force history. I don't want to get into all that, but
Right.
So that was like 91 to 96, I think it was.
Gosh.
The first
you could have been one of the people who yelled at me. I got there in August 95.
That's very likely. I mean, I yelled at a lot of people.
Yeah.
And then, so I went back again, man. I went back to my career field. They sent me to an intel squadron on Brooks here in San Antonio. I was board of tears. So I only spent a little over a year there, and I went right back for another tour. Wow. That time, I left 3 years later as a master sergeant, became a first sergeant, did that for about 6 years, and then they asked me to come back as a senior. I did. I came back as a senior, made chief, and then I left and went to Kandahar for a year as a group superintendent out there with the Afghan Air Force, doing the air advisor thing, and was a command chief ever since then. I left there to first command chief gig, and as you know, retired as the AATC command chief in late 17. So,
wow. So, what would you say like your favorite part of being a TI was?
Well, I think it's the people aspect. Obviously, there's something to watching a human being literally change in front of your face. A lot of people come to basic training. They're good. They're motivated. They know this is what they want to do. It's the ones, they still need help. Don't get me wrong. You got to still instill some discipline and pride and different things that they, make them better than they think they can be. But there are some that come that are very pitiful. I mean, their heads down. They don't know why they're there. They're doing it because they don't know what else to do with their life. Maybe somebody's told them they're a failure, worthless their whole life, and they don't have the confidence. And the thing about being a TI drill sergeant, it's your job to pull that out of them, to make them figure out that nobody's worthless on this planet, that we all have something to give, and that they can do this. And it's that moment in time, as you know, in this business of being a drill sergeant that or TI, that you see their eyes change, you see their posture change, you see the confidence come out of them, and you create these little monsters that are on fire to go rule the world. And so that definitely has to be the best part. But I mean, there's so many great parts to it, and it's multiple people. It's developing other TIs and other NCOs, airmen. And it's a leadership factory, man.
Oh yeah.
So if you're into leadership and you have a passion for people, what a great thing to do.
Yeah. Wow. I actually got emotional a little bit there when you were talking about it, because I was remembering my time, in basic training, And yeah, going from like, man, I don't know why I'm here. I don't know what's going on. There's all kinds of yelling. And for me, like, yelling was a little bit of childhood trauma. So it's like, oh my gosh. But then like just I don't know, man. I got to meet so many people from all over the place. And there were just so many possibilities. It's like, I don't know what's gonna happen next. Man, I didn't know I was gonna be in 20 years. I was just like, oh, I gotta do this right. I gotta go to the next stop and all that stuff. So man, that's nuts. So yeah, wow. You just pretty much encapsulated your whole career in like 10 minutes. That's pretty impressive. So like so here's the crazy thing. Like when I was coming up on like 19 years, I had been like dragging my feet to get my bachelor's. I always said, before I get out of the Air Force, I'm going to have my bachelor's degree, right? And I was kind of dragging my feet. And then I remember like early 2014, something came down about like a like force reduction, and they didn't talk about what AFSCs they're going to, allow people to retire early. But I went to TAP in 2014. And so it was like a whole year early. And I realized in the class, I was like, ooh, I'm not ready. I'm not ready to retire. And so I busted my butt and I got my bachelor's degree. And I remember telling everybody at my retirement, I was like, yeah, I finally got my degree last month. And so it was like, wow, just 1 month short, right? But then I still feel like in the next few months, I was like, man, I just wasn't ready for this. Was there a time when you were getting ready to retire that you're like, I'm not sure I'm ready for this? Or were you like, I am so ready. Let's go.
Yeah. So, I mean, the answer is yes to both, I think. I mean, I was ready to retire. There's no doubt about that. But when you spend, and you spent 20 years. And so, but when you spend so much time doing something that you do love, and I loved every minute of it. And I could tell you I shouldn't say every minute of it. That would be a lie. But there's a lot of challenges that go with that. And with a 20, 30 year career. So I wasn't ready as far as taking care of me, making sure, like what you were talking about with your degree, you got it done. So great. You did that. For me as a MAJCOM command chief, all I did was work. All I did was travel. I didn't have time for anything else. And that's maybe an excuse because I should have made the time. And I certainly went around the command, right, and telling other people to make time. I think that senior leaders sometimes have a great way of talking the talk, and it appears they walk the walk, but they don't always, it's not always true because I'm out there telling people about have balance in your life. And, and I had the whole, my God, my family, my country, my unit, my fellow, myself, till we go to combat. And then it's my God, my country, my blah, 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 my unit, my family. I didn't do a great job of that, man. And so of practicing what I preach, because it was so much about the job. There were so many things going in the Air Force, and being the AETC command chief. I mean, talk every personnel policy, everything was involved in decisional stuff and writing these policies and working with the A1 at half and the Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force and all the other MAJCOM chiefs. And so when I took a breath after retiring, I go, holy cow, man. I didn't even go to TAP. I didn't go to any of that stuff. I just retired. I mean, I did something. I remember I had to go and sign a paper at the Family Support Center saying, and I read a briefing that sufficed. And you have to realize too, I mean, I probably went to somebody probably came to my office and did something that was good enough to pass. But I really didn't invest in what's it going to be like when I retire. I just wanted to get to that day and then kind of make up for lost time with my family. That was my goal. And then I was in a whole new world, man. So
Yeah, I tell people all the time. I was like, yeah, there was a time in it was my first year working as a civilian where I kind of had a little like a breakdown. I don't know what you would call it, mental breakdown or like I don't know, just a breakdown. So what I did was I would have all of my outfits set up for the week. It is Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And my wife, since she took care of the kids and the house and all this stuff when I was all deploying and all that stuff, when I retired, I said, if you want to work, you can work, but you don't ever have to work again for the
Right
rest of your
on.
life. And so her job, to say, so to speak, is to take care of like the house stuff, I guess. And so she had a certain day that she would do laundry, and so then I knew that, and so I had all my stuff laid out, and then I think she decided to wash clothes on a different day than I was used to, and then all of my stuff was all in the closet, and I had no idea what I wore the day before or the day before that. It was like a Wednesday. I don't know what I wore on Monday. I don't know what I wore on Tuesday. I don't want to go to work looking like I slept in my clothes. I don't want, it's like I don't know what to do. And I was like freaked out, and we had a conversation about it. And it's like, does it really matter? And it's like, well, I've pretty much been wearing the same, like you wear the same, people are like, you wear the same clothes every day in the military? No, but it's the same color scheme, unless it's like, unless you work in an office on like Mondays, you're wearing blues. And then Tuesday through Friday, you're wearing some kind of camouflage of some kind, right? And, but so I never had to think about what I was going to wear. It was always like, unless it's blues, it's like, is it hot today? Short sleeve. Is it cold today? Long sleeve. So I was a little bit freaked out about that. And then like all the medical stuff, and then like all the like insurance stuff, it's like, what is this? This is
Yeah.
a whole new ball game. Cost of living. It's like, let's move to Nashville. Cost of living in Nashville is insanity. It's worse now, but I mean, we live in Mississippi, so it's not so bad. So, yeah. So that's like really, I think the transition, maybe the first couple of years was tough for me. Would you
Yeah.
say that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I had a similar, not exactly, but similar. I had a little bit of a breakdown. Now, lucky for me, I think during the whole VA appointment stuff, I did have a really smart guy, doctor, that told me, well, I'll just tell you what he said. We got done, and he was talking about PTSD and stuff. I'm like, I don't have any PTSD, man. What are you talking about? He's like, you do, and I need you to be prepared, because he says, Chief, let's just say you're on deployment and something breaks. What are you going to fix it with? I said, 550 cord or duct tape, probably. He's like, that's right. He said, man, for 30 years, your duct tape's been your uniform. And I got to tell you, man, when you take that thing off, it may not be right away, but it's going to be pretty quick. You're not going to have it anymore, man. And you're not going to have those same people around you. It's just going to be
Yeah.
you and that house or whatever. And it's, and it made a lot of sense what he said. And he gave me some other advice. And so I was kind of ready for it. And then it was about 9 months out after I retired. I had a great job. It was I didn't have a lot of stress in my life, but I was still stressed.
Mhm.
I was still carrying all that. And literally, I was sitting out on the back porch of my house in Seguin, Texas, looking up at the stars, drinking some bourbon, smoking a cigar, chilling. And all of a sudden, it just hit me out. I felt it all come out. It came out of my shoulders, came out. And I just sat there and had a great cry. Like, I'm not
Mm.
embarrassed to admit it.
Yeah.
Um, and then I was good. I mean, I won't say I haven't had other, we all struggle still. I think even, I've been retired 6 years and I still miss it sometimes.
Yeah.
But I do have a great circle of friends that are retirees and some active duty dudes and as well. And so I get my fix if I need it, so to
Yeah.
speak.
Yeah.
But yeah, we all, I think, go through that. And I think we have to be prepared for it. And I think, if there's any active duty folks that see these shows that you're doing, man, that's what I try to tell people is like, take care of you. You served your country, whether it's 4 years, 20, 30, I don't care. When you're getting ready to transition, really focus in on what that should be. If it's your school, if it's certifications, if it's just your mental health, I mean, that's a huge thing. Take the time to do it, and be as ready as you can, because I don't know. I don't even know, Tito, like, what kind of job should I get? Should I get a job? How much should I ask for?
Yeah.
I screwed all that up, man. I had a guy hit me on LinkedIn one day. He's like, "Hey, Chief, I see you're retiring. I'd like to talk to you about an opportunity." This is how bad I was, man. It was an industry I don't know anything about, and so I just was politely declined the chance to talk to this guy, which was a huge mistake. I don't ever say no anymore to anybody, because you never know. And then a couple of weeks later, someone from LinkedIn hits me up and says, "Hey, did this guy contact you?" I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "Yeah, you really boned that up, man. He wanted you to be a COO of his company." And this was a large, this was a great opportunity for me that I never even had the conversation. Now, I don't regret that thing. It just, it was a mistake that I made that I learned from, so, I own my own little thing now, so I'm good, but still, just things like that, that we're not ready for. So, and the time a recruiter said salary requirement.
Yeah.
Like, well, I don't know. Tell me more about the job and I'll try to figure something out what to tell you to pay me. I don't know.
That was
bad.
Yeah, that part was really hard, I think, for me also. I befriended a recruiter who had 15 years in Nashville, and he taught me a lot. He was a friend of my sister's, or is a friend of my sister's, and it's like, I need help. I don't know, like, what do I wear to this interview? He's like, a suit. I'm like, okay, what? And then he started talking about, you got to wear like this color suit and the shoes that are in there. This one, it's like, dude, I don't even know. I felt like I was like, in high school, going to the mall, go shop for a suit for prom or something. It was crazy. But so when you what was your first civilian job? What did you end up doing?
Yeah, crazy. So I went to work for a contractor, CACI, khaki, and I'm not going to say it was a bad thing. I mean, I loved the job, I loved the opportunity, but here's maybe the mistake that I made with it. They hired me on as an air advisor SME, which was a great job if you didn't want to do much work, because the reality is that they were hiring me because I just retired as the AETC command chief, and the contract was on staff at AETC in the A3, and so they were rebidding, and whatever, they offered me a job, I took it, and they paid me a great salary, but I was bored to tears, Tito, man. I was staring at a computer that didn't do anything, a phone that never rang. And we got used to running, 20 something Air Force bases, 4 NAFs, 70 something thousand people, 400,000 students, advising the Secretary of the Air Force, the Chief of Staff, the MAGCOM commander. So I was batting a little bit, how do they say that, under my weight class or something? I don't know, but boxing under. So anyways, that was the first job. I did it for about 8 months before I let them talk me into being a civil servant. And I did that next. And I was running a security cooperation branch. And then I ended up running both that and expeditionary readiness training for the Air Force through AET. And so I did that for a couple years. And you didn't ask me this, but I just figure it's going to lead naturally into it if it's okay. There became a time where I realized that probably the former MAGCOM command chief probably shouldn't be a staff officer on the MAGCOM staff. It didn't really, I don't think it bothered anybody too much, but sometimes, it's like, well, they would call me and they're talking to chief, usually they're not. They're talking to Dave, and it was two separate things. And so if they wanted some chief advice, then it was, it was addressed that way. Otherwise, it was, the GS conversation, which was kind of weird. And so I started kind of going, what is this really what I want to be doing? Is my heart really into this? Because again, it wasn't that challenging. I know that may sound a little bit arrogant, and I don't mean to be, but it just, I never felt really challenged. And that civil servant world, we've all been around it. I work with some wonderful people, mostly retired military, but a good portion of them, man, I'm just being honest, they were just lazy and collect a paycheck. And I can't function in an environment like that very well.
Yeah.
I did have an opportunity because of the position I was in, to help people change their attitudes, and do better. But, then COVID happened, and like you, I started teleworking, and at some point in that, I made a decision that I'm going to resign and do something myself, because I'm not as passionate about this as I probably should be. And anytime you're in a situation like that, that's not good for anybody. Right.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. I think we all need to be challenged, because then it helps you want to strive for more, strive for better, do better or make your job. For me, it's like making manual processes automated. That's what I do. I build applications so that people who have these like huge manual processes that take them days or weeks or months, whatever to do, can just like at the push of a button, boop, it's done. Right.
Awesome.
But the thing about like not being challenged in a job, that's really tough, because then it's like, what do you get up for in the morning? I know that when I have like something that I'm working on in the afternoon, and it's like, oh, I got to stop because it's like dinner time. And then when I wake up in the morning, I'm like, oh, I'm about to solve that issue. Woo, I'm excited. But if there's nothing to solve, nobody to lead, no questions to answer, how do you make yourself keep going to work? So that makes a lot of sense. So then you decided you're going to start your own thing. Did you have a time period? He's like, oh, I'm going to take some time off. I'm going to go RV the world, right?
So, I mean, without telling a big, long story, I had put a date on the calendar. And if there were some things that I would maybe have stayed in the staff job that I was in, if a couple of things worked out a certain way. And I decided that if they didn't work out a certain way by this date, then I was going to go and do something else. And so that date was coming close, and I told my boss, hey, I'm putting my house on the market, just so you know. As soon as it sells, I'm resigning, I'm moving to Arkansas. And there's some personal stuff going on. I lost a brother. My older brother had passed away, and I needed to go home to Arkansas, where my baby sisters and stuff were. And so a lot of it was a personal decision, emotional decision. But so I started thinking about, well, what am I going to do? And I just figure I'll land on my feet. I don't know. I'll figure it out. And at first it was going to be just your typical. Well, when I decided to open a company, it was going to be your typical. What do you see a lot of your retired command chiefs doing, and the motivational speaking, the leadership development, that kind of stuff, which is something I'm very, very passionate about. I was a little concerned about going that way, though, just the amount of travel that would probably entail. And I don't want, like I mentioned, I want to spend time with my wife, that, kind of neglected when I was active duty. But then the rumors got out I was starting a company, a consulting company, and I actually got my first client. This guy hit me up on LinkedIn, and by chance, I had actually helped him when I was on terminal leave with. They called me, was one of these companies that said, hey, we're interested in you. Would you consider a job with us? And I said, no, I already took a job. I accepted from one of your competitors. That was the khaki job. But what's your issue? And maybe I can help you. And so I helped him land a big contract. And so he hit me up like, hey, I'm with this company now. Can you come work for us? I'm like, whoa, wait a second. So he showed me, what this company was doing. And so anyways, I agreed to consult for him, and that became my first client. And so I just kind of changed direction. Like, okay, I was going to do this, but this is where the work is coming. And what I figured out when I talked to this guy was that, man, this is all about. So what I do is I go out and look for innovative technologies, new stuff that
Mm-hmm.
specifically the Air Force, the DoD, but specifically, obviously, I pay attention to the Air Force the most. And I'm still very involved. I go to the AFAs. I do talk to the commanders and command chiefs and stuff when they ask for help with something. So when I find it, man, if it passes my sniff test, and I'm passionate about it, then that's what I do. It's business development. Every now and again, I'll do some other stuff too. I'll read some proposals and edit them and stuff like that, and do some hourly work. But primarily, it's helping companies that are really, really good, really smart, that have something that the Air Force needs. Because the problems are all still the same from when you and I were. They've made some progress, but they're still working on the same. I just spent last week with the AATC command leadership at the senior statesman thing, where they bring the former commanders and command chiefs in, and we sat around the room talking about the same things that General Robertson and I were trying to solve back in 2017. And that's not to dog the Air Force, but progression is slow sometimes. And so
it's like I remember one pastor was saying, like, when he like took over a church, and he said, it's like, it's like a very small rudder on a very big ship. So anybody that makes any like changes for a large organization like that is going to be like, oh, you're going to have to go through all this stuff, and that turn is going to be like that. It's not going to be turning on a dime like a forklift or something. But it's so funny. So, like, can you see that? You see the chat? Somebody said, Chief. But what's funny is that, like, there's settings on LinkedIn. Maybe, I don't know. It just says LinkedIn user. You probably have to go to LinkedIn. I don't know if you would go to like the post where the stream is happening and you see who that is. I don't know who that is.
Yeah, I don't know. Hey, state your name, LinkedIn user.
Check your privacy settings. But so do people call you Chief? People walk around like, hey, Chief.
I really enjoy being Dave, and I tell everybody, like, Chief retired. There are situations, yes, and it's hard for some people, but I have absolutely no problem with being Dave. That's John. That's my buddy John Say, and he knows. John was my exec at the Air Force Academy.
Oh, okay.
But no, people do. It depends on the setting. Typically, if they call me Chief, I know they need something.
Oh man, that's great.
Hey, why can't I comment on this thing? Let's see.
Oh, you should be able to comment in the. You can't comment like in the studio chat right there.
Let me see.
Anyway.
Yeah.
So yeah. Well, you can go back on the on the post on LinkedIn and comment on there.
Yeah, sure.
So that's really interesting. So what are you doing like nowadays? What are I post on the post, I was like, I know that he loves the RV, and I follow that stuff because, like I said, like we were talking before, off camera, and I was like talking about one day soon, someday in the future, my wife and I are going to have an RV and we're going to travel all over, and we may live in it for half the year. Who knows? But what are you doing nowadays?
Well, like you said, so full-time RVing. So last March, we bought this big old 45-foot fifth wheel and a 3,500 dually to diesel to pull it with. Remember I mentioned that emotional decision to move back home to Arkansas. When we did that, we both agreed, my wife and I, 2 years minimum, we'd give it a chance and see if this is where.
Yeah.
And we figured it out that it wasn't. And there's a lot of great people in Arkansas, but it's one of those things you can never go home. We, quite honestly, didn't really fit in too well. But we still love the people there. We love it there. but not necessarily where we want to call home for retirement. And
Mhm.
honestly, we're missing our military friends a lot. And so that was something that was kind of hard for me in particular. And so, anyways, once we sold the house or said we're going to sell it, instead of going off and buying the next thing in San Antonio or whatever, we decided let's go RVing. Let's do it for 2 years. Let's travel to these places we're not sure about. South Alabama, for example, Gulf Shores area. We love
Yeah.
it there. Biloxi, Mississippi, Fort Walton Beach area, Destin, that kind of stuff. And maybe nowhere cold. It's all south for us, man. You know, maybe back to Phoenix and test the waters there. Just try to figure it out. And so that's what we're trying to do. We're hung up in San Antonio usually because my youngest is still in college here. She's supposed to graduate soon.
Oh,
So
okay.
but we're here supporting her, which is great. We love that we're able to do that. And so usually, man, I'm riding my Harley with my friends here, maybe playing golf with somebody, and working a few hours a week to for my company so that I can help the Air Force get better.
Nice, nice.
Well,
Yeah, I think, one of the things that I underestimated when I was retiring was the military community. Let me tell you, moving to Nashville, Tennessee, where working in the corporate world with people half my age, same level, half my age, I think the biggest thing, like one of the biggest differences was that like they're like, "Oh yeah, no, I was never in the military. I think my uncle or my grandfather was in the military." Like, man, that was crazy. It's like, okay. And so just like having things in common with people, who who've been through some of the same things, that was tough to find, I thought. But when we moved back here, there's still a lot of people
yeah,
that I mean, we moved back to the same time. We moved back to Long Beach, Mississippi from when we were here when I was at Keesler. And so a lot of ex-Navy, ex-Air Force, roaming around here. So
yeah,
military community is definitely something that if you're getting out of the military, don't underestimate the value of having like a military community. Because it's tough when you're really just trying to fit in and trying to connect with people,
yeah.
and then there's like not that. It's tough. It really is. So,
Yeah, that's
you
true.
know,
I tell you, I have some of the best friends on the planet right here in San Antonio that just you know they're brothers and sisters and their whole families, and so we're very very blessed to have that. And so I'm assuming San Antonio is where we're going to end up planting roots again.
yeah.
We lived here longer than anywhere else, and we do love it here. But we at least want to go out and test the waters and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
something always pulls me back here, man. So
Yeah. Apparently, oh my goodness, all the different times, being stationed at Lackland. That's nuts, man.
yeah,
Wow. Well, and it was really great talking to you today. Um, I loved your insight on, you know, the just like your journey through like leadership and like how vitally important that is, and like what you're able to contribute. And then like when you're out and then you're like, I don't even know what I'm really like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do anymore, because it feels like it's one thing and it's the other thing. That transition, it really is so tough. So I hope that whoever's out there watching, just know, hey, you're not alone. I promise you, you are not alone. The journey through, military to civilian, and then on into retirement, driving all over the place, whether you do that or like, plant roots somewhere, that journey, there's transitions, and transitions are always hard, but it's good to have people around you who can, speak life into you, and
yeah,
you know, and really give you some wisdom. Find a mentor, find somebody who's been there, done that. And it's a lot easier for the transition.
Yeah. Hey, I know you're going to close up here, Tio, but you mentioned that, and I want to emphasize what you just said, if you don't mind. So
Go ahead.
I see people struggling, like veterans, right, all the time, and I'm on different Facebook groups and things like that, and people reach out to me. It's really hard, especially I think for veterans sometimes, because who you reach out to, you can't always. Well, you just don't feel like they probably understand if you see a doctor, you see a chaplain, whatever. But my experience, I always tell people, man, if you have PTSD because of combat deployment, if you have PTSD because of something that happened to you at X unit, call the people you were there with, call the people that you went through it with, talk to them. And I'm not by any means saying don't go see a psychologist or don't. I am not saying that, but I'm saying it's good. It is good for the soul. It does help, I think, if you are able to talk to somebody that at least understands instead of saying they do. They can actually visualize and comprehend what you're talking about. Because unless you were there, it's like, I can't tell you what it's like to be an NFL football player. I've never been one. So I don't need that guy asking me for advice in the NFL because I got nothing for you, brother. So, but it's always great to see you, man. I'm so proud of you. I'm glad that you're doing this. You're one of those fantastic troops that we had at 2nd Air Force. And I remember your retirement ceremony like it was yesterday, man. It was a fun one. And
Yeah.
dude. And so, yeah, thanks again for inviting me on. And I'm just really happy to see you out there living your best life, bro. It's good stuff.
I appreciate it. Thanks so much. I'm going to end the stream, but don't hang up because we're going to talk in the studio.
Okay, buddy.
Everybody, thanks for joining us this week. Next week we got Nadia. Nadia Romanos is on, I believe. Man, if I'm wrong, I'm sorry, Nadia. But anyway, she's got a great story, and I'd love for you guys to join us. Till then, see y'all. Wait, it said end stream. End it.